given any surface, what should be the path that I'm going to trace such that I'm going to get to point to the fastest? Okay? So, assume that this is the path. Now we have done this sa previously. But actually, that was a flat Euclidean space. Now, this is not necessarily a flat, this is not a flat Euclidean space. In general, this is a curved space. Now, problem dito is that, first, of course, being on a straight line lang di ay, it's not the shortest path because if you do that, you are actually getting away from the surface. Sabtan?
Yeah.
So, dito ka pwede. You are constrained. This is a constraint, right? You are constrained to the surface. Okay? Now, I will introduce this directly without deriving the concept of the arc length. Kaya matugay na punta. Kaya taas-taas ko ng derivation aning. Sunod. The arc length for this one, diba we need the arc length, ds.
Yeah.
Okay? For example, in Cartesian coordinate system, ds squared is equal to dx squared plus dy squared plus dz squared. Okay? But in general, in non-Cartesian coordinate coordinates, this is g, the sum of g I j dxi dxj. Now, it's not an exponent. It's not an exponent. It's a sub-superscript. Sa ato pa. Now, I'll remove the summation. And we will use the Einstein convention. Maybe by this time you already know the Einstein convention. Ang Einstein convention is that whenever there's a repeated index in a single term, you're going to sum in that index. Ibig sabihin here, the summation is, in terms of I, in terms of j, sa ito pa, this is double sum. Sum in I and sum in j. Okay? So, I'm going to take the summation and assume that you know the Einstein convention. No? Assume Einstein convention. Sa ato pa, ds now would be this. Right? Okay? But this is what I want. Since my xi's here are parameterized in terms of, it is parameterized in terms of u. Okay? Let's parameterize x in terms of u. Sa ato pa, instead of that, I can just write this as gij dxi over du dxj over du square times du. Okay? And this would now be my s now would be the integral of this from P1 to P2. Mora gyapon eh. Pero kung salay na kuan ra ani, of course, yan arc length ra ni gyapon. Kung sa siya last time when we take the this is just remember sa kung sa siya sa dati. For a straight line in flat Euclidean space, this is just dx squared plus dy squared. Why? Because gij there is delta, chronicle delta. So technically, kani siya and kani are the same, only that this is in flat two-dimensional Euclidean space. Okay? Now, we are in arbitrary curve. In general, actually manifold, not only a surface. The surface is a two-dimensional manifold. Okay? So, mao niya itong Now, we want to calculate, we want to minimize this functional. So, kung sa itong buhaton, okay? So, let's apply calculus of variation for this integral. Okay? So, I'll write this integral here. I would take now the variation of square root of gij And okay, since we're using, in our context, in our language, since we're using Q for generalized coordinates, I'll be using here Q dot I, Q dot J. Notice na naa sa superscript ang gigamit. Yes. Meaning that, okay, so kanisa, where Q dot I is dQ over du. What? Yeah. So, here, du, where Q dot I equals dQi over du. Yeah. Here, we actually take note always of the Einstein convention, meaning that whenever indices appear twice, no, in a single term, in the same term, it is to be summed. So, here, it's a summation. Saan isa nga summation? Double sum. So, grabe na siya it's a very, kanagaling kuhan kayo, kanagaling very handy. Pero pinulang taas kayo ni. Okay? And you will see later when you do the actual calculation. Taas kayo yung calculations rin. Okay. So, we take the variation of this. Atong isulod. So, taking the variation of Gij, Q dot I, Q dot J. Okay. Sige na, Now, I want you to follow the rate. Okay, yung sa ibuhat. Take the variation of this. So, saman, we apply partial over partial. Partial over partial Q. Okay, by the way, here, I'd like to point out, before proceeding, I'd like to point out that Gij is a function of Qi, or some Qk, no? In general. Or, to spell it out, that is Q1, Q2, Qn. Okay? Okay. Partial over partial of this one, right? Delta Q, okay, this is, I'll use K. Okay? So, K plus partial over partial Q dot K of this thing here, delta Q dot K.
So, gulo mo naman noon, sir, na gulo mo naman noon padulong sa oil Lagrange nga form?
No, I'm not using the Euler.
Wala gaso matudan.
Yeah, there is more than yung sugod sa variation.
Okay.
Okay. Now, kung sa ikuha na ni, okay.
Kana, no, ibig yung matawag.
Okay, notice that G, sa kaning dire, only the G will be differentiated.
Yeah.
Why? Because Q dot I and Q dot J, Q dot I and Q dot K is not a function of K. Of QK.
Yeah.
And in this case, only the katong ano, no? So, okay, I'd like,
Sir,
this is 1 over 2 square root of Gij, Q dot I, Q dot K. Times, diba?
Yeah.
Differentiation.
Yeah.
So, ako na siyang okay, I'll put the integral here. Okay? From P1 to P2. Diretso na ko okay. Notation. Partial over partial QK is delta QK.
May pa.
Delta K.
May pa.
Okay? To make it handy.
Yeah.
Okay? So, sa ato pa, the delta QK, the partial QK only applies to Gij. Dili direct. So, I can write this as partial K, G Gij, okay, Q dot I, Q dot J, delta Q, K. Okay? Plus. Okay, again, ang kaning dire, ang partial K, dili na siya mo apply dire sa kuan ha. I mean, yeah. Dili na siya mo apply sa Q dot N, yeah, Q dot I and Q dot J. So, diri na to karon. This is Gij, ako siyang igawas. Okay? Ano naman eh? Okay? Partial of partial QK. Ato ni isa-isa ko. Okay. Of Q dot I, Q dot J, delta Q dot K equals 0. Okay? Because we are now taking the variation.
Esa. Di ba partial of Q dot K?
Q dot K. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Nice. Ang parenthesis lugar, sir, sa
asa.
kana, sir, go.
First, second, first ano siya? Asa ang
Kana.
asa parenthesis sa kane?
Okay, di ba?
Kanina na. Wala na may kinahanglan. Meaning that this is
Ano di ba kay G?
asa ang
Kana, sir.
kani. Open. Ano yung gigawas dali? Kay mo ning di ba 1 over and then minus the negative 1. So that's why we have this.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would have this partial K, Gij, Q dot I, Q dot J, delta QK. Tanawa, di ba? First, the second, the first. So you will have now, atong isa-isa na siya, you will have Q dot I times partial Q dot J over partial Q dot K.
Yes.
Right? Which is actually
Chronicle delta.
JK.
Yeah.
Okay? And now, there's 2 of that. So sa ato pa, I'll multiply this by 2.
Yeah.
So this would just be time plus 2 times Gij.
Yeah.
Okay? In this case, I'll use K now. Okay? Q dot I, because this will be JK, chronicle delta, okay, J chronicle delta, K. Delta Q dot K. The integral, so you have you have this one, no, this whole thing direct. Okay? So, wala pa na ako niyan, kanilangin diri sa sunod. Okay? You have this. And what's next is so say buhaton nato ani. We change K to J to K, right?
Yeah.
So sa ato pa this just becomes IK and ayan. Hindi na siya ana. Okay? So delta Q K that. Okay, here's again. And this is by the way, nani du dire du equals 0.
Yeah.
Okay, don't forget. This is still an integral, no? Kani siya whole thing, naara siya dire. Okay? So, what happens next is, okay, at umisahin ko ano, no? I'll take the variation of GIK Q dot Q dot I delta Q K. Now, tanawa ha, kindly look into this very closely. Kaya kaning mga, this is Q dot K. Okay? So this is QK dire. When I take the variation, usay ko ani, this is first, the second, plus second, the first. Okay, so partial sorry, not the variation. I would take the d over du. Okay? What is Q dot K? Remember that Q dot K equals partial QK over, dQK over du.
Yeah.
So, when I apply this one, ako sang ikuha na, i-separate na ano na ako. Dire. First, the second, plus second, the first. So, first, the second. So, I would have now GIK Q dot I, and then D over du of QK. Right? Which is the same as delta Q dot K. Okay? Plus second, the first. So, what is my total D? Okay, D over du of Gij Q dot I. Okay? Mag first, the second, okay, sorry. This is delta Q. Ano na siya? Okay? And what is this? This is D over du Gij. Now, let's calculate D over du Gij. This is Ij. Remember that Gij is a function of Qk, right?
Yeah.
So that this is partial G. Okay, this is partial K.
Yeah.
Gij dqk over du, right? So you have Q dot K.
Yeah.
Sabta ninyo? Balik ko na ako ha. Ganong nahimot siyang Q dot K? This is partial Gij over partial QK times dqk over du, right? Partial differentiation. So you have this one. Okay? So, sa ato pa, this whole thing here will lead to first, the second, plus second, the first. This is the of the first. So, ang the second would give me Gij Q double dot K.
Yeah.
Galurat na may mata niya. Okay? Sometimes. Muna yung first ha. First, the second. Plus, second, the... At sa pa dili, okay. Plus second, okay. Sakto. Plus second, the first. So, this means that this is... The first is this. So, partial K, Gij, Q dot K. Tama?
Yes.
Okay. Now, naanak ko yung term, this is actually, no? This whole thing here is just this.
Yeah.
Okay? So since mauna siya, ako rin siyang i-erase sa isa-isa. So, my integration now, okay, we have here the integral of 1 over gij q dot I q dot j square root. Napay 2 dahil dito. 2. Integral. Times this partial k gij q dot I q dot j delta qk. And ano to? Okay. 2 times, so plus 2 times, okay, separate ako ni daan. So 2 times this minus this, right? Tama?
Diba?
Minus this, right? That minus this. So, unahon ako ni, no? So, mahimong minus 2 times what?
Wala yung variation niya, sir.
Dili naman, dili ang, wala ang variation ba?
Butang lang, pwede naman butang.
Sorry, naano siya ay delta QK. Okay? So, minus siya kay, because this is that minus this.
Yeah.
So, asa na to? So, minus gij q double dot k plus partial k gij
Yeah.
q dot k delta qk du.
Wala, limitan po
No, plus the integral of d over du of gij q dot I delta qk du, right? Now we always know that, well, actually the integral of this is just this gij q dot I delta qk evaluated from P1 to P2, but again this is 0, right?
Yes, stationary mo naman.
So okay, this whole thing is equal to 0, right?
Yes.
The whole thing is equal to 0. Okay, so naana ka dire.
Na,
So we are now all in delta qk. So if we okay, akong gusto na. You have the integral from P1 to P2 of 1 over 2 square root of
Sir, kaya mo yun, sir.
kabalo ko na short kaya ni sa tanawon, pero pag spell out ni siya, hastang taasan ni siya. Kulangon yung board. Tinood lang. Ako ni spell out ang full equation at this font size, kulang yung board. Ako ni sound. Okay? Taas kaya na siya. Remember, that's just think of that. Unsa ka shortcut ang atong notation. Okay? Pag ako ni siyang spell out not just INJ, but spell out the whole coordinates and take the summation, kaning board nato kulangon ni basta mapat ka board pa ang kinahanglan.
Palit to, sir.
At least So, taas kayo ng equation. Okay? This is the longest equations in physics na makita ninyo, no? Kanang sa electromag ninyo, wala. Gagmay na ka ng mga vector because we are no in tensor equations. Yung electromag is just using vectors. Unless mabot mo ko using electrodynamics, dito pa mo abot og tensor. Anyway, so we have partial k gij q dot I q dot j minus
Sir, what's the title sa video ni sir? Solving the geodesic equation. Deriving the geodesic equation.
siguro solving the terrible the horrifying
Napahiya ako.
Napahiya ako sa lagi na ako clickbait, no?
Kita ito ano.
Sinigawan ako ng klase dahil hindi ko na-solve. Tara ito, napahiya ako. May paspas, may tigang movement. Okay. Asa na rin? Okay. Minus
So,
2, ato ni siyang ikuha na, 2 delta, okay, atong tanong ng 2 delta K Gij Q dot K minus 2 Gij Q dot K. Okay, delta yan. Delta QK du equals 0. Now, this is now the equation. And it will now be valid that since these are delta QKs are independent, and by this time, dapat nanon ninyo that whenever we have delta Q dot, ato na Q dot I, di ba mo na itong original na ano?
yeah.
Whenever we have that, kailangan natin siya express in terms of delta QY. Because only then that the delta QKs are, we can assume that it's independent. Okay? So, in this case, this whole thing here is 0. Okay? So, I would have this equation now. Partial K, Gij, Q dot I, Q dot J, minus, okay, take note of this 2 here. Okay. Di ba this is equal to 0? Ako ni siyang i-1, that means it becomes 1 and that becomes 1/2, right? This now would become 1/2.
Yeah.
Okay?
Should be.
Minus partial K, Qij, Gij, Q dot K. Minus Gij, Gij, Q dot K equals 0. Okay. Now I would have to use this definition. If Gij is the covariant metric tensor, okay, it's actually E, I, EJ, no? Ang E is katong differential operator.
So, di ba na
EI,
double dot, sir?
EJ, ha?
Q dot. Double dot.
Double dot na siya, no?
Kani.
Double dot. I can actually define the contravariant of this. Actually, the para siya tawag, dual space. The dual space. Pero, yun ang tamo mo tira, no? Yeah, maybe we have time sometime. Sunod akong ano sa inyo ang gigod sa formalises, formalism din. Na ako actually last year ani kay kompleto nga lectures pero wala na ako mga big na record tanan. Isa lang ako na record. Okay. Gij is equal to EI, these are actually ano? EI EJ. Pero kung sa ipulos ani, kung sa purpose na ito, we have this notation. We want that Gij, the matrix formed by Gij, we want this, okay, mo na itong gusto ha, we want the matrix formed by Gij, the coefficient of the contravariant metric tensor to be the inverse of the covariant metric tensor. Inverse matrix is a matrix. Okay, whenever I use this, meaning these are the coefficients of the matrix, no? That's why I've said that this is not the metric tensor. This is the coefficient of the metric tensor. Okay, this is now the metric tensor. You can call that G, no? G. Okay. Let's label this as G. G hat na lang, and this label this as G. Sa ato pa, G hat is G inverse. These are matrices. So therefore, if we have this, we must have this Gij or Gik, Gkj, right? Must be equal to delta
IJ.
Ij.
Yeah.
Okay? Oh, nalay sa taas, no? Di na, di sa ubos. Meaning that the other one, this one, kaninga index is coming from a contravariant. Actually, Pag flat space lang ano, there's no difference between covariant and contravariant. If you are in the flat space, flat Euclidean space. But if we are in the general curved spaces, the superscript and the subscript will have a different meaning. AI is not the same as EI superscript I. Hindi na sila pareho. I will be asking you to calculate that later. Okay? So we have this. So saan ang buhaton? I want to remove it here. So say multiply na ako, I'm going to multiply both sides by
G
G
superscript
J G J G J K, right?
yeah.
Multiply na ko na siya. Now G J K na becomes the contravariant metric tensor. Okay? Okay. Sir, really okay, sir. Okay. So I would have this now. And ako isang guwapo, no? Because I want to use this definition. Such that, okay, we define this constant with the Christoffel symbol, K, I, J. Now take note of the one. This is defined as 1/2 G K. And then some another index. This is a dummy index. Times partial, okay, I, G, M, J. Plus partial J, G, I, M, minus, sakto din.
Ay, nawala lagi si K. Oh. Ay. Astor rin.
Partial
M.
K, G,
IJ.
Okay, okay, we have this definition now of the Christoffel symbol. Now, mingon ko nga, okay naman na sir, actually taas gano'n gaya na siya. Ato na i-calculate ang Christoffel symbol, kulangon gapon yung dawa ka po.
So, wisdom nga na sir. Naman na sa space.
Hindi natin siya mga Tagalog interpretation of dito sa pagkuhan sa
May explanation ng video na itong science click without
sa affine connections. Sa connections siya tinatawag ang connection form when ang paggawas ni siya na kuhan. Advance kayo ang explanation. But it's not a tensor. This is not a tensor. Okay, not all with subscript and superscript are tensor. By the way, what is a tensor? A tensor is something that you
Something that you
balik ka na dira. Okay, kaya matay ka magpugong mo palalunggod. Dugay kita kasugod.
dari sa.
Now, if you look at this one, tanawa nga form, di ba? Tanawa na siya. Kanto dire. But you have 1/2 here. In fact, you can break this up.
Yeah.
Tama? Pwede natin siya i-break. Okay? Pwede natin siya i-break. I-break natin into 1/2 of these are dummy indices such that ano siya dire?
Yeah.
Dire. Okay? Pero ano mo naman ang Q dot dire? Wala siya Q dot?
Hindi, ang isang ito.
Ay,
nawala gid. Nawala gid eh.
Walang Q dot. Ano Q dot ba yun? Asa naman to? Walang Q dot.
Nawala gid eh. Asa to? Nagka-picture ba to? Wala? Isulat niyo wala? Okay na?
Pero walang Q dot.
Asa na eh? Dapat na eh. Dali? Asa?
Nitado ako naman itong isog. Nawalang Q dot. Naman yung Q dot dire. Okay.
Layo ang ganta, nawala.
Dito sa pagkuha nato ganiha. Itong pag... Nawalang Q dot. Dapat isa ka Q dot dire. Okay? Lagi, nanay isa ka Q dot.
Ay, nawala gid eh.
Ay, okay. When we apply Ito galing ano? When we apply the d over du of gij, mugawa sa isa ka q dot. Diba? Okay, this is partial k, gij, q dot k. Muna na q dot k. Pero nanay q dot i daan ganiha.
Oh, lagi sakto.
Nanay q dot i daan ganiha. So, this is, nanay siya q dot, okay, sorry. So, nanay siya q dot i, q dot k. So, q dot I, q dot some k. Minus, you know? Okay. Now, I will leave this to you as an exercise because pwede ninyo siya, settle this one. Kanilang dire. With this definition, because I can replace this. Take out the gij, q dot I, q dot, actually q dot j, or q dot k. Yeah, q dot j, dapat ni siya. Nani sa dira? I think this is q dot k, q dot I. Q dot j. Okay? Ganyan, ay nawala. I-settle ninyo ni, take the, work on this one. Ibig sabihin, i-manipulate ninyo siya, because pag inyo siyang book, di ba 1, we can take this into two different, 1 half, 1 half. So, magawas ang 9, di ba? That's why there's 1 half, right? We can factor out 1 half. Dahil katong duha ka term, you can actually change the indices because these are daming indices.
Yeah.
Nga bubagay siya. So this means this whole thing here, we can take this one out and we will get this as negative. Actually, negative ang magawas dito. Negative of Christoffel symbol of K, Ij, Gij, Q dot I, Q dot J, minus Q
Plus na.
dili, minus ni. Magawas na siya nga minus. Yeah, magawas na siya nga minus. Kaya nakabuk negative dili, no? Minus, minus.
Yeah.
Plus, plus, minus, pwede.
Zero.
Okay? So, minus Q dot K equals 0.
Double dot.
Double dot. Okay, so if I'm going to spell this out, d squared qk over du squared plus gamma, sorry, gamma ba rin? The Christoffel symbol, ij,
Ay.
dqi over du, dqj over du equals 0. This is actually what we call the geodesic equation. Geodesic equation. Saan ang geodesic? Geodesics are the shortest paths in general in manifolds. So katong nagsugod na, that is the shortest path.